Hey, good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. And it's going to be fun to present this machine. We don't see Italian beauties as often as Swedish beauties or the more common Singer models that we might present on the channel. So it's always great to bring out one of these machines. And some of you might know, I'm reaching for a book right now. Some of you might recognize this gal right here. You can kind of see her name on the bottom there, so I'm not keeping any great secret. But those of you that are really, really new to the sewing space, particularly the vintage space, might not remember, but Sophia Loren, an Italian actress, an Italian beauty, stepped into the space in the 1950s on behalf of Necchi and started representing their brand and stood behind great machines like the Necchi Supernova, and certainly machines similar to this Necchi Model 512 that we're going to be looking at today on this live stream. All of those machines share one common quality, and that is they're just beautiful to look at. And they're also surprisingly strong when it comes to what they deliver down at the needle. So I think you'll be impressed as well as some heavy duty sew offs today. Not that we don't do that quite often on this channel, but it's always fun to surprise, to hear them say, I had no idea that a machine like that could sew at that level. And that's the surprise factor that I love bringing to the live streams, where you all of a sudden open someone's thinking up to realize that they don't necessarily have to invest uh, 12, 14, $15,000 in a light industrial type machine like a Sailrite or other similar machines to that in order to do some incredibly heavy duty sewing. And as long as they maintain that machine properly, they're able to go after that type of sewing pretty much any time that they want to do that type of sewing. It's not a one-off. And so as we go through the different sew-offs today with this Model 512, I hope that you're pleasantly surprised. And if you've never considered owning an Italian machine before, that it'll open up your eyes to that possibility. Our channel is all about opening people's eyes to new possibilities and also realizations that the machine that they have, which might look just like this one, isn't performing anything close to what this machine is capable of doing on this live stream today. And that's the workshop magic factor, isn't it? It's giving a machine a superpower so that all of a sudden it can do things that people find unexpected. They find it to be extraordinary. I get emails, I get calls, I get contact from all corners of the globe from people that will reach out and say they just watched a video on the channel, or they were in the shadows during a live stream and they saw me present a machine, and they've got, I always love when they say this, the exact identical machine, and yet theirs can't do anything close to what I've demonstrated during that live stream. And I always have a gentle hand about it, but I always ground them back to the fact that it may look like the same machine, but the magic is on the inside of the machine. It's unseen. And so as they're talking about their machine being exactly the same as the machine that I show, I always remind them that it's very different actually because of the process that I've taken that machine through. The process is what makes the difference. When a machine leaves the factory, when it's born at the factory and it's getting ready to be adopted or purchased, if you will, and go to its new home, hopefully its forever home, when those machines leave the factory, they're generally pretty close to being identical. But I say pretty close because it's just like you hear about when you're looking at buying an automobile. when you're looking at buying an automobile, there's certain days of the week. If a car has been made on a certain day of the week, you generally want to try to avoid buying that car because the manufacturing process certainly has quality assurance and they certainly watch their standards and they try to stay consistent about the way they make things. But inevitably, things end up being a little bit different. Cars will have flaws, cars will have assembly issues or quality issues in general. And so, you just know that that's going to happen. So even leaving the factory, there's a little bit of an inequality, isn't there? And so it even broadens more as that machine goes through its life. As it goes through its life, and sometimes it's transferred from one hand to another several times. There's one owner that buys it originally and new, then it gets passed to another, passed to another, passed to another. How do they maintain the machine? How do they use the machine or abuse the machine? All of that plays into what that machine is capable of doing. Let's just call it the greatness factor. And the way that I even the ground at the workshop is I take it through a regimented process, about 140 steps, about 14 hours. And that brings that machine back to a standard that in many ways is even better than when it left the factory. So my point is, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised when you see this Italian machine do its dance today during the live stream. I hope you are. And I hope it opens your eyes to the possibility, as with other folks, when they've seen other machines on this channel, they right away put it on their bucket list. They right away uh, start watching the radar. They start watching the radar for that particular machine because they've seen the greatness factor. It's intoxicating, and they all of a sudden want to get a piece of that, and they want to jump into that space and try that machine. So hopefully you get the bug today. You get the Italian bug as you watch this machine perform through different things. But in the meantime, I'm going to invite all of you that are watching right now to demonstrate your greatness, to demonstrate your knowledge, and to tell me, what do you know about the Necchi Sewing Machine Company? Any fact at all that you want to post in the live chat, anything that's interesting that you want to share with the rest of the family so that we can gain knowledge together. That's what the classroom setting is all about, right? Gaining and sharing knowledge and getting people excited about vintage sewing machines. So I'm just going to check some things. I heard some notifications on the phone. I want to make sure that I'm not missing anything as far as questions or anything of that nature. And then we'll start jumping into this so that you can share my excitement of this machine that belongs to Mary. I'm also going to open my phone up so that I can make sure that we're getting good audio quality and good video quality as well. So yeah, type anything you want to share. Maybe it's not even specifically about the company. Maybe it's about your Italian machine. What kind of Necchi sewing machine you might possess in your collection, and then we can gain a greater appreciation for your specific machine. Maybe how you use it, the type of projects that you sew with it, how long you've had it, how you acquired it. Just don't make the mistake of putting the price. if you got it for a wheel of a deal, don't put the price in the live chat, or the leadership team will go ahead and delete your comment, because we don't want to diminish the intrinsic value of any vintage sewing machine. There's nothing wrong with getting a deal, but we want to keep that almost top secret, because we don't want to give the perception to outsiders that these machines don't have value, that they don't have worth. And sometimes you'll see that, Facebook Marketplace and other places like that, where the seller has no idea what the machine is at all, nothing at all, no understanding whatsoever. And they'll be listing that price for a ridiculously low price. And we want to work against that, because we want people to fall in love and to see these as treasures. And treasures, by definition, have value, don't they? They have value. So we want to build the case in every corner that we're in every circle that we're in, we want to build the case for how precious, how valuable these vintage sewing machines are, and then get other people excited about investing in that space and building their own collection. As my good friend Alex Askarov in the UK says all the time, and we will swap notes back and forth talking about this machine I acquired or he acquired this machine. Alex and I are in total agreement on so many things, but one of the things that we get giggly about is we'll talk about our most precious machines and how it is part of our retirement. It's part of our retirement because the machines are that valuable. They're that valuable. And so it's fun as you start to recognize, whether it's like Bill O'Rourke in Kissimmee, Florida, that collects coins, and you might have your own collectibles that you have in your home, or maybe even in your sewing space. Those things are precious to you. They're valuable. And guess what? They're valuable to other people as well. And value really comes from perception. So we, as vintage enthusiasts, help to build that perception of value, and make the case so that others, when they see a machine pop up somewhere, even if they don't sew, they're like, wow, that would be a great investment. That would be a great investment. And so just keep that in mind as you're out there uh, influencing folks on how they perceive what we already have a great deal of respect and love for. Okay, so I'm hearing good audio quality. I'm seeing good video quality. I'm going to look at the live chat real quick and go around and say good morning to everybody, and then we're going to launch into this pretty doggone quick and see if we can't fall in love with an Italian beauty very much. And if you joined the live stream a little bit late, very much like people fell in love with this Italian beauty. She was on the big screen in a number of movies. Many of you that are maybe a little bit older than I am, that would watch a lot of Sophia Loren's movies, remember her with Cary Grant and other great actors on the big screen. And that really was the gateway that opened up the opportunity for Necchi to reach out to Sophia and say, would you represent our brand? They recognized that as they were coming in as outsiders, very much like the Japanese and other manufacturers would experience opposition, friction, because we already had our sewing machine manufacturers in the US, and outsiders coming in meant less business for them. And, especially the bitter taste that was in a lot of people's mouth after the Japanese post-World War II flooded our markets with their Japanese machines, marked way below what they were in comparison to other machines that were comparable already in the marketplace. And they put a lot of manufacturers and others out of business. So the Italians were very, very aware of this. And that's why they wanted someone that right away, as soon as you saw her standing behind that sewing machine, whether it was a Model 512 like this, or whether it was another Italian machine by Necchi, right away people had a softening in their heart because of their affection for this incredible woman, Sophia Loren. She had such a natural charm, natural beauty, and a natural grace on the screen that people immediately fell in love with her on the screen, and then they just transferred that over to falling in love with Italian sewing machines that were not just allowed to come into our marketplace, but they were welcomed. It's like, yeah, if Sophia Loren, if this gal right here believes in that brand and is willing to stand behind that sewing machine, doggone it, yeah, I'm going to buy one. Matter of fact, I'm going to buy two because we believe in her. She has integrity and such a wonderful job of accomplishing that for the Necchi sewing machine company. So, yeah. All right. So let me do this. Let me go over and greet some folks, say good morning, and then we'll go through a little bit more history of the Necchi sewing machine company that some of you may already know because you're incredibly smart. Was established right around 1919. So, if you compare 1919 to, say, Singer Sewing Machine Company being founded right around 1851, you can see that the Necchi Sewing Machine Company, like a lot of other manufacturers, came on the scene much, much later than household names like Singer. In fact, Necchi came on the scene almost almost 70 years, almost 70 years after Singer was established as a company in 1851. So they had a lot of catching up to do, and they took it on with complete enthusiasm and confidence because they had a spokesperson like Sophia Loren, and also their approach to the design on sewing machines was different than what some of the other manufacturers were doing. The Italians wanted sexy lines. They wanted their machines to be curvaceous. They wanted them to be aesthetically attractive. They wanted them to be museum quality in the way they presented themselves. And so the Italians were focused on a very specific attribute of the sewing machine. They wanted it to be able to perform, but they also wanted it to take your breath away as you looked at the machine. And I think, to a great extent, even though I find that the Model 512 is a little bit more boxy than some of the other Italian machines, like the Lydias and that, but it still is a very, very attractive, especially with this. I'm not sure what color you would call that. It almost looks like a peach color to me, but even their choice of colors in many respects were another attribute of the Italian trait of trying to make the machines as beautiful as they were functional. So, and this little gentleman here, I didn't have a specific representative for the Italian brand. All of you know Herr Obermeister represents the German brands. We've got our little Swiss Miss over here that represents our Swiss machines. We've got Umi and others that represent Japanese machine, Dr. Singer. All of you know my little friends in the workshop. This little gentleman here just seemed to look a little bit like he might be from an Italian culture. And so I picked him, and he's looking at cloth, and we're going to use our imagination and just pretend like he just sewed some stitches using this Model 512. And now, like we do on these live streams, he's carefully looking at those stitches to see the quality and the caliber of that stitch quality. And if any of you have an opinion as far as what his name should be, I'm wide open to that. So let me know if you've got an idea on what this gentleman that we're going to say is probably from Italy, what his name might in fact be. And after I greet everybody, say good morning, we'll share a little bit more about the Necchi Sewing Machine Company. We'll learn a little bit more about this specific model. Then I would love for us to take a walk around the machine. I'm also going to wind a bobbin with this machine as well during the live stream, so you can kind of see how that's set up. And then we'll actually launch into some of these sew-offs and make some magic on this Italian beauty. Okay, so let me see here. Give me just a second. All right, open. I've got that open. Okay, I'll set this phone down. This phone is almost like an electronic leash, isn't it? We'll set this phone down, and then we'll get this live stream rolling. Okay, so let me see. Let me start from the top. And of course, near the top is going to be many of my leadership team members, probably Susie right at the top as well. Yep, Susie was the first in the classroom. She even beat me. Again, I don't know what others can see on the other side. We'll start class. What others can see on the other side, but apparently, even before I click go, there's visibility that live stream is there because Susie, even before I click go live, she's already extending a good morning, which is kind of cool. So there must be visibility straight away. Also, good morning to Emma from the beautiful state of Florida. Susie, most of you know is from Minnesota. Most of you know is from Minnesota. Emma's from Florida around Naples. Also, good morning to Candido, who looks like he typed something and then curious what did Candido type. But any rate, good morning to Candido from New York. And Candido knows that his mystery package with his parts machine, that Viking 1010, and then a bunch of other goodies are actually in the hands of FedEx right now, heading towards him out in New York. And he said, Scott, it feels like Christmas in August. So I think this is August anyway. Let's see who else we have. Good morning also to Kathy King. Great to have Kathy King. Buongiorno, buongiorno. I think Kathy knows a little bit Italian. Also, good morning to Jenny. Jenny, our ambassador to Needles, and also Jenny here always. Alex, Alcos, aka Alex, from the great state of California. You're going to see our family is everywhere. And then we have lots of international family members as well around the globe that will pop in occasionally. We've had people from Africa, from Asia, from Holland, from Finland, from Sweden, from Japan. I have no idea. There's other countries as well. Everyone shares that common ground of loving vintage sewing machines and loving sewing machines in general, because oftentimes they'll have newer machines and also vintage machines in their doing different projects, delivering may not be able to do as well. What else do we have? Who else? Also, good morning to Mesa Group, aka Bill, and to his lovely daughter Lisa over in Minnesota, and also to their puppy, who probably is not even considered puppy anymore, because I remember the pictures that Bill shared of his beautiful dog. She was little then, but dogs grow quick, just like kids, don't they? They grow very, very quick. Who else do we have? Oh, good morning to my entire state, and great to have Aaron here this morning. Who else? My leaders, I don't know what y'all are typing. A lot of my leaders, Susie and Candido and maybe others, typing stuff and then they're retracting it. So I don't know what they're putting in there, but you know, come on, you guys, guys and gals. Oh my gosh, it's fun. Who else do we have? Scrolling. I think that's everybody right now. Chat anyway. I've said hello to everyone. So, and I don't know if anyone's shared. I'm just looking real quick. Nora, yes, Nora. Thank you, Susie. I was having a brain cramp on Bill's dog's name. Nora, yeah, she's a sweet gal. And yeah, we can ask Bill how old Nora is now. Is she going on 2 years old already? Or is she still younger than that? I don't remember how old she was. Also, good morning to, I think it's Charlotte from the great state of Alabama. I got to say it like that. You know I do. I got to say it like that. So if I'm reading the name correctly, I think it's Charlotte from Alabama. And I just, as many of you know, I just shipped an absolutely drop dead gorgeous. Are you kidding me? It's on my bucket dream list. I just shipped a Singer 222K, the featherweight convertible, down to a wonderful gal, Elaine, who is preparing sewing machines to be given to her granddaughters down in Alabama when she eventually passes away, being a go-getting grandma and inspiring the granddaughters to the 222K that I shipped her through the 201-2, the Rolls Royce of Singer sewing machines that I shipped her prior to that. So she's got those two machines, both just bubbling and overflowing with workshop magic that are beginning to intoxicate with what grandma already loves. So Alabama is near and dear to my heart because of that great lady down there that got these two machines from the workshop and to inspire her granddaughters in love with sewing and with vintage machines in particular. So welcome to our dear friend from Alabama, and great to have you here. All right, who else do we have? Oh, good morning also to Mindy from the great state of Nevada. And it's an interesting coincidence that Mindy is in the live stream today because the same owner of this Necchi Model 512 also had that hand crank 66K that was presented weeks ago. And Mindy ended up scooping that machine up. You might remember Mary, that brought that machine along with four others, wanted to offer that 66K hand crank for sale. And Mindy, knowing the quality of my work and getting other machines from me, made an offer to buy that machine even before I sewed off with the machine. And if you haven't seen that live stream, go back and check out that model 66K hand crank that Mindy from the great state of Nevada now has in her collection and is absolutely delighting in that machine. So, you know, when you can pass a machine from one lover of vintage sewing machines to another, and you know they're going to cherish it, what a great way that is to give that machine a new home and to give it a new opportunity to celebrate different projects with that new owner. And that's what's happening with that 66K as we speak. So that's really cool. All right, who else do we have? Oh, I think our Alabama gal is already stepping away. We must have caught her at a busy point, but hopefully she comes back to see us again and checks out this live stream as a video afterwards. That would be awesome. Okay, I think I've said good morning to everybody that I see in the live chat. So I'm going to take my focus off of the computer right now. Take my focus off the computer, and we'll focus a little bit more on the Necchi Sewing Machine Company. And I don't know how many of you in the live stream already own an Italian sewing machine. And there certainly were other Italian makers as well in the sewing space. But Necchi was probably best known, and Sophia Loren had a lot to do with that. But and I'm just kind of pulling up my notes that I prepared to get ready for this live stream. First of all, let me say that dating an Italian, not dating like an Italian, like romantically. That's another topic for another time. But dating an Italian sewing machine can be a little bit challenging sometimes, kind of like some of the other makers that we've had. They oftentimes will work with a bracket system instead of a targeted birth date. Does anyone know, or does anyone want to venture a guess as to when this particular Necchi sewing machine would have been made? And there were other models that were made about the same time as this machine also. So we almost have like a trinity. We have a trinity of 500 series machines that would have come out about the same time. But if anyone wants to venture a guess, what bracket from when to when, or if you want to go with a specific year, that's fine as well. But when do you think this machine came on the scene? And if you, I know many of you right away are going to be jumping on Google, but if you just know off the top of your head, I'd like you to tell me that, because then I'll be really impressed with your knowledge. Anyone can Google something, but if you already know approximately when this machine was made, maybe you own one of these machines, then I think that that would be really, really impressive. So yeah, let me know what you think when this machine may have come on the scene, and if you want to name the other two models that would have been coming out at about the same time in that 500 series, you can mention those in the live chat as well. And that way, again, this is not about showboating somebody. This is not about someone being a teacher's pet or being the smarty pants in the classroom. It's about us sharing information and then taking that information outside of the classroom to our circles of influence and making others smarter on the next hand, and specifically this model. So, if that's your motivation, then I applaud it. But we're not about singling anybody out either for having all the right answers or for not having the answers. We're all about sharing. As Susie has said before, no judgment, no judgment. So, all right, let me take a look at the live chat. Taking a look at the live chat. 1956. That's a little bit. Looks like Susie said one. From Florida said, what about the 1970s? Well, all of you have a little piece. All of you have a little piece because this model, and I don't anyone typed it in. Let me see. No one typed it in that I can see anyway. This model would have come out about the same time as two other models. It would have come out about the same time as the model. Excuse me for a second. It would have come out about the same time as the model 510, which was the first in this series of. And then there was another model after offered an adjustable type throat plate, and that model 513. And they would have come out in the window of around 1963 until around 19. So if someone wants to add that to the live chat, three models, the 510, the 512, which is this machine, and then also the 513, they would have been produced from about 1963 until around 1971. And all of them had some subtle changes as they went through that evolution of 500 series machine. Oftentimes when you put them side by side, they look very, very similar. See if there's anything else I wanted to share in specific about Necchi. There's so much to talk about when it comes to these machines. Yeah, I think we'll keep it kind of high level right now. Oh, I'll ask you one other question. When this machine, this Necchi 512, when this came on the scene in the 1960s, let's say right around 1966, what would this machine have pounds? Because this machine, the European marketplace, initially, obviously in Italy and other parts of the European marketplace. And the information that I have on the model as far as its sale price back in 1966 relates to the pound value. So we can do a conversion on that and convert that to dollars. And then we can also do a conversion to figure out what would money be worth today. But if anyone wants to venture a guess in pounds, what this machine would have sold for in 1966, go ahead and type that in the live chat, and then I'll share the answer with you. And some of you that are from pounds to that dollar amount, and tell us what that would be the equivalent of today. Because that's always the fun part of You can see machines that would have been sold back in the 1800s, for example, for like $12. And it sounds like ridiculously cheap. But when you take into account the value of what $12 bought back then, all of a sudden it brings it into perspective that even back then, $12 in the 1800s was a lot of money. So we can try to figure that out together. And then again, take it out of the classroom and share it with others to give them for the treasure of these Italian machines. And Susie, one correction, dear. One correction, Susie, as far as the date bracket, it's not 1953. It's actually 1963, dear. 1963 until 1971. So if you want to maybe retype that and then delete that other one so that we don't give misinformation. But again, the bracket for the models 510, 512, and 513 is going to be from 1963 until approximately 1971, 1963 until about 1971. All right, let me see if anybody guessed the price. Let's see here. And no one's guessing the price. I don't see any guesses as far as what this machine would have sold for back around 1966. But I can tell you, according to my research, it would have sold for right around 54 pounds. So if someone wants to do the conversion, and take 54 pounds and convert it to dollars, the dollar equivalent in 1966, and then take that dollar amount and tell us what would this machine, if you took the equivalent cost from 1966 and you equated it to today's value, what would you be spending on a machine like this today? Obviously quite a bit more. So if someone's willing to do that, that would be great. But again, my research indicates that it would have sold this model 512 in 1966 would have sold for right around 54 pounds. 54 pounds. Yeah. Okay. All right. Who else do we have? Okay, I don't see any other comments or questions. I don't have anything else specifically that I'm going to share about this model right now. But we are going to walk around the machine now. We'll walk around the machine and kind of look at the lay of the land, and then we'll kind of move into the machine right after that. Okay. I'm going to push this chair. Okay, so let's walk around this Italian beauty. And we'll move our, and I don't know if anybody came up with an Italian name for this guy or not. Maybe since the founder of the Necchi sewing machine was Antonio Necchi. Maybe we can call this guy Antonio. I don't know. We'll come up with a name for him eventually. So I'm going to move him to the side so he's safe. Launch into learning a little bit more about the lay of the land on this machine. Let me ask all of you that are in the audience right now, before we go through the machine, a couple questions. As we're looking at the machine, we've had other machines that I've presented to you recently, including the featherweights, with the exception of the featherweight convertible, where the feed dogs cannot be dropped. Dropping dogs requires some very specific mechanical engineering. And would this machine from the 1960s, around 1966, would this machine have had the capability of dropping the feed dogs, or do you need to use a darning plate like a lot of machines that don't have that capability? So that's the first question. Can you drop the feed dogs on this machine? Second question is, what kind of hook system does this machine from the 1960s have? What kind of hook system? Does it have a long beak shuttle system? Does it have a horizontal rotary system? A vertical rotary hook system? Does it have an system? What kind of hook system is on this Necchi Model 512? So, a couple of questions to kind of get us rolling, and again, to build that base of knowledge on sewing machines so you can then take that information out to your circles and make other people smart on that machine. Because if we don't share the knowledge, what's the point, right? We've got to share the knowledge so that people can fall in love with the sewing machines just like us. So I'll give you a few seconds to kind of contemplate those questions. Maybe I'll throw on a little bit of Italian music real quick while we're doing that. And I'll get a quick drink of water so that I can keep my whistle wet. This is supposed to be Italian music. I don't know if it is or not. So, yeah. So Emma's saying right around $800. $800 if you were to take the equivalent value from the date that I gave you to the current. I think right around 1966 is what I said. You're looking at, just shy of $1,000. The money that would be spent to buy this machine today. And someone also typed oscillating hook system. That's absolutely correct. This does have an oscillating hook system. And in fact, it's going to have a hook system that's going to be very similar to some of the Japanese machines that came out a little bit earlier than this model. It's going to have that same type of bobbin case with the little finger on it. Most of you know what I'm talking about as far as the finger. And the finger is going to really, really be an important factor if you're looking to replace that bobbin, because if you buy the one that has the finger pointing at the 11 o'clock position instead of the 1 o'clock position, it's not going to fit in your machine. So I've talked about this before and shown them to you on the live streams. It's going to have that type of bobbin case, and it's a deep well type bobbin case. You can see the bobbin that would go into this machine. It's going to look very, very much like a class 15 bobbin. And if you're curious about the dimensions of it, just show that to you again. This is the type of bobbin. So it's going to hold a lot of thread. You're going to be, if you have a full bobbin, you're going to be able to do a lot of sewing on this machine. And as far as dimensions, I'll give you the dimensions real quick so you have that. Talking about the height of the bobbin like this, you're looking at right around, let me just double check, 11, 12 millimeters. So the bobbin, if you're looking for replacement bobbins for your Necchi Model 512, you want to get a mechanical caliper like this. That's what this tool is called. It's available pretty much at any hardware store. We'll sell something like this. And I just bought a basic mechanical one. They've got electronic ones and everything under the sun. But if you just buy a basic caliper, it'll give you the opportunity to measure things very, very easily. This is going to be 12 millimeters tall. And then as far as the height of it, I should say, yeah, I guess that is the height, isn't it? That's the height if you look at it like that. And then from this side of the bobbin, you measure it like this. See if I can hold that still. If you measure it like this, you're looking at right around 21 millimeters. So 21 millimeters measured like this. and 12 millimeters, measured like that. And then you also have to take into account when it comes to fitting a replacement type bobbin on the machine, because the mounting point for the machine is going to have a preset stem that you slide the bobbin on to wind the bobbin, like we'll be doing shortly. And if this is too small, you're not going to be able to fit it on the machine to wind the bobbin. It's not going to fit on the machine. So you also have to take into consideration that opening as well, which on this bobbin case is going to be right around, let's see, right around 8 millimeters. 8 millimeters, the opening, so that it'll fit properly on the machine for bobbin winding. Otherwise, you have to buy an auxiliary type bobbin winder and wind the bobbin off the machine. So just be aware of that. There's a lot of things that come into play when you're working with bobbins, and the aftermarket ones are usually not made to the same specificity, the same um, accuracy as far as all the dimensional aspects as the original ones. So sometimes, even if you get the right bobbin, you might have issues with it operating in your machine. So just be aware of that as well. All right. Before I forget to show you, we're back to my go-to needle. Is what I have in the machine today. My go-to needle, and I'm going to be putting the same thing in Nestor's 185J that's going to be going out to Maryland soon. And if you missed that live stream, you'll want to check it out. We presented Emma's brother's machine that she wanted to give him as a special birthday present. It was a Canadian-made Singer 185J, and I sewed on that machine with a leather needle. But when I send it out to Maryland, I'm going to put a universal needle in it so that Nestor's able to sew pretty much anything with that needle. And I'll probably include some extra needles with the machine as well. But a 9014 is going to be a nice medium range type needle. It's going to be strong enough. See if I can hold that still for a second. It's going to be strong enough to go through the thick of thick, but it's also going to be not so large that you're able to sew lighter projects with it as well, without having to go to a smaller gauge type needle like a size 80 or a size 75 or a 70. So I love the 9014 needles, and the Schmetz people know that. A couple of them that I've had conversations with through Facebook, and that they call it the go-to Scott needle. But I'm in a small little circle of people around the world that love the 9014 Schmetz Universal needle. So it's a very, very popular needle. So this machine does come with an oscillating hook system. The benefits, again, if you don't know it already, the benefits of the oscillating hook system over any of the other hook systems that I mentioned is that because it acts as a pendulum in creating the stitch from side to side like this, instead of going full circle in a rotary fashion, because it oscillates from side to side, you're able to run much heavier thread through this machine without it creating a jamming issue down in the raceway. So just realize that if you're going to be sewing with upholstery thread, if you're going to be sewing with Kevlar thread or other heavier gauge type threads that can get balled up in a lot of machines, look at, if you don't already have one, look at an Italian machine like this that has that oscillating hook system, or maybe one of the Japanese clone machines, because many of them have this same oscillating hook system as well. And you're going to have a lot less problems running that heavier thread and creating projects with that machine than you will if it's a rotary hook system, or even a vibrating system. Sometimes will have some issues because of how it feeds out of that barbell long bobbin through that tight little tension band on the vibrating shuttle. So really the ideal machine, in my opinion, the ideal machine, if you're looking to run with heavier thread, maybe you're going to be doing some leather projects and you want to have some really pronounced top stitching, because the top stitching when it comes to leather products is really the big sales point, isn't it? That's what everyone looks at right away when you're looking at, that leather product, whatever it is. They're looking at that stitching, and they're usually feeling it with their finger too, because that thread is going to be heavy enough. You can feel the texture the strength of that thread and that stitch line. And so, consider an oscillating hook system on your next machine if you don't already have one, and it'll give you the ability to run with much heavier threads without experiencing the same challenges that you would otherwise. The only exception to that is the the Swedish beauties, and I shared in the last live stream that I'm going to be preparing a Swedish beauty for Candido quite soon. I'm going to be preparing a beautiful Swedish beauty for Candido out in New York. And the Swedish beauties come with that very unique engineering design of it's basically a movable hook system. The shuttle system inside of the raceway can go left or right, and it can go up or down 1 to 2 millimeters. And 1 to 2 millimeters movement or fluidity of movement within that raceway as it's stitching allows those Swedish beauties also to run with a much, much heavier thread, even though they're a rotary hook system, because it has that floating raceway. It allows that thread to pass through there and to complete the stitch process without it getting all gummed up and all snagged and all the messy stuff that can happen when that thread in that stitching process is not being completed properly. So yeah, in lieu of an oscillating hook system, there are some very rare vibrating hook systems and some rotary hook systems that can handle the heavier thread as well. Okay. And speaking of thread, since I'm like on a thread kick right now, the thread that we're going to be winding a bobbin with today, and also we're going to be sewing with it as well, is Gutermann. It's 100% polyester. And I'll even read you the little number on here if that helps you to look up at Joann's or Joann Fabrics in your neck of the woods. The thread we're sewing with is CA 02776. So CA02776. And I bought 3 of these over the weekend, and they gave me 2 of them free. So I walked out of there only paying for 3 of these. And I walked out of there only paying for 3 of these, but I was able to walk out with 5 of these Gutermann spools of thread because of their sale deals on the weekend of buy 3, get 2 free. So I think that's really a great bargain. And I love, with all the thread I go through preparing machines, it's a really, really big savings point for me too. And these are 100 meters or 110 yards. So they're going to be a little bit smaller than some of the Coates and Clark threads. But my personal belief is that Gutermann is just a little bit of a step up as far as caliber of thread. No offense to Coates and Clark, but the quality of thread from Gutermann is just a little bit finer thread. Both their 100% polyester and also their cotton threads as well are really, really quite nice. So this is what we'll be using today. 100% polyester Gutermann thread, and shortly we'll be winding a bobbin with it as well, so you can kind of see that. So let's go around the machine a little bit as I continue to blah blah blah, and I just have to finish cutting this denim real quick because I do want to stitch a little bit of denim during the live stream as well today. And I don't know what Mary's going to be sewing primarily. She's right now dealing with some family issues as well, so I'm not sure she'll have a lot of time to sew right away. But I'll go through enough material possibilities that I should hopefully cover whatever she's looking to sew on. And this particular, just to let you know, this particular model 512 does take a bayonet style light bulb. So this was the original light bulb that was in this model 512. And what I elected to do is to take it out and then to put one of my high output, low heat LED bulbs in this machine. Because quite honestly, with that bulb, with this bulb in there, this incandescent bulb, there was like no light at all on the bed area right here of the machine. It was very, very dark. Even now, because of the light design on this model 512, the majority of the light is targeted down on the needle. So if you're in a darker sewing space and you've got a model 510, 512, or 513, whatever it is. You may have to still, even if you put in an LED light like I did, which helps a lot, you might still have to have an auxiliary light that puts a little bit more brightness on the bed. And I'll just show you with this little light that I use to look into the dark spaces of the machine sometimes. You can see the brightness on the bed right now. Let me just move some of my stuff out of the way. You can see the brightness on the bed right now stops right about there. Stops right about there. And then from here over to the pillar, it's a little bit on the darker side. And that's just a product of how the light system is set up on here. But if you add an auxiliary light like this, you can all of a sudden brighten up. You can see now where this was dark from here to the pillar. If I add an auxiliary light to supplement the LED light, all of a sudden I've got a nice bright bed all the way over to the pillar. You can see the difference straight away. So LED lights are wonderful. They put out so much more light than an incandescent bulb, but depending on the design of the machine, and like I've shown you on some of the machines that I've had in the workshop, inside of the faceplate area, some of the manufacturers will not add a reflective type um, uh, surface to push the light down and out on the needle and the bed area. This is one of those machines that doesn't have that reflective coating on the inside of the faceplate to reflect that light down, which before it leaves the workshop, before Mary picks it up, I might add some of that HVAC tape that I showed you before. It's that shiny aluminum type tape. And if you take a piece of that, you take the faceplate off, there's a single screw right here that holds this faceplate on. You take that off and you cut that to size and put it on the inside of the faceplate. All of a sudden, it will push that light that's, it's being suppressed a little bit inside of the faceplate area. It'll push that light down and out. And it probably won't give us enough brightness, the equivalent of from this to that, but it's certainly going to help. Certainly going to help. And you can do that with any of your sewing machines as well. If you're able to get that faceplate off, if you're comfortable doing that, take your faceplate off and see if there's some reflective tape or a reflective material in there to push your light down to the needle and across the bed. If there isn't, go to your hardware store, pick up a roll. It's not real cheap. It's kind of expensive. But you buy a roll of that aluminum HVAC tape. It's used for heating and cooling applications. Super sticky stuff. And just cut it to fit that space on the outside of the faceplate. And then when that light bulb comes on, it'll hit that reflective surface and it'll push that light down and brighten up your sewing space. So hopefully that's a little bit helpful if you've struggled with it a little bit. Maybe you've replaced your incandescent with an LED and you're still not having enough light. And as we get older, we need more light. Our eyes change, and we need more light to have the equivalent uh, visibility, to have the equivalent sense of comfort in sewing. Otherwise, it becomes a very stressful ordeal as we're trying to see what's happening down at the needle and down on the bed. So, at any rate, there you go. What else? What else? What else? Just checking my notes real quick if there's anything else I wanted to cover real quick before we take a step forward. Any guesses, while I'm just checking my notes real quick, any guesses as to, and I'll show you, I'll try to bring the machine a little bit closer. I'll go over the top of the machine. This is a rear mounted motor. Any guesses as to the size of the motor or the engine on this model 512? Any guesses as far as the size of the motor or the engine on this model 512? I'll look at the live chat in just a little bit and see if anyone wants to venture a guess on the size of the motor. I'm still here. I'm still here. I was having a moment of silence. And you're saying silence for Scott? Is that even possible? It is sometimes. And Emma's saying right around a point 0.7. And Susie's saying right around an amp, 1 amp. And both of you ladies are right in the correct neck of the woods. Um, According to the nomenclature plate on the back of this motor, it's going to be between zero point 0.6 and zero point 0.7. And I say that because it has kind of a little formula on the back with the ohms, the voltage, and all kinds of other gobbledygook. And I had to kind of look it up, but it's going to be peaking at right around zero point 0.7 amps. But again, after a motor is optimized, it's going to be performing much better than a similar machine to it out there, because certainly the Soenvacs don't do a thing to the motors. If the motor runs, they're not going to touch it. They're not going to optimize the motor pulley. They're not going to optimize the belt. They're not going to do any of that stuff that's critical to launch and traction when it comes to that machine. But you're looking at right around zero point 0.7 amps. So it's a pretty good sized motor for this Italian beauty. And it really does an excellent job of driving that power down to the needle, as you'll see when we start sewing with it. Okay, I think we've covered most everything that I want to cover. Let's just walk around the machine and answer the question that I asked or not. As my leaders always remind me, I tend to ask questions and then I forget to give the answer. I forget to give the answer. So I know one of the questions I asked you was, does this Necchi model from around 1966, does it have the capacity to drop the feed dogs? Because normally we'll see something indicating that there's a feed dog drop. Over by the pillar, we'll have a knob that we can turn, like on a lot of the European model machines, the FOFs and others. We'll have a button we can push. We'll have something in the raceway area right here that we can see readily that we can push or we can turn to drop the feed dogs. So I know we've had a couple people pop into the live stream. I'm just going to ask everybody again real quick. Does this machine have the ability to drop the feed dogs, or are we looking at a machine that's going to have a darning plate? Let me know your thoughts on that, because it's important to know that about the machine, especially if it's not as obvious. Especially if it's not as obvious. Oh yeah, hello to I'm gonna probably do the name wrong. Uh, Iana. Welcome to. Let me scroll up here. It's almost like in Anna, in Anna. But anyway, welcome to Inanna, South Carolina, upstate. Okay, I've heard that Carolinas is really quite nice. Um, and obviously, well, I shouldn't say obviously. I say that a lot. Um, but South Carolina is also a very prominent name to which company, or manufacturer for sewing machines was located in Inanna. Inanna. Very cool. Very, very cool. Inanna. I don't know that I've ever seen that name before. Inanna. Inanna Shu. Beautiful name. Isn't that a lovely name? What company or what manufacturer was in Inanna's neck of the woods in South Carolina? What company was down in South Carolina? We talk about it all the time. Talk about it all the time. What company was in South Carolina? Manufacturer. What company? Just opening my my Diet Coke with my really cool Iowa corn cooler thingy. What do you call it to keep the soda cool? Yeah, yeah, Singer for sure. And we can ask Inanna. We can ask Inanna, how far is she from Anderson? How far are you from Anderson, South Carolina? Because Anderson, South Carolina still has remnants of the Singer manufacturing plant that took over production of all of the sewing machines on the East Coast for Singer once the Elizabethport, New Jersey plant closed. Anderson, South Carolina became the hub for producing machines for Singer. And I'd be curious how far Anderson, South Carolina is from Inanna, depending on where she lives in the state. 5 miles? What? All right, here's the deal. Here's the deal, Inanna. I'm going to come into the shot real quick. All right, here I am. Inanna, we need to become best friends. We need to become best buddies. So I can travel out and I'll probably bring some of our other family members with me. We've talked about doing this. We've talked about doing a road trip. And we would love for you to be our guide of the area. Since you're only 5 miles from Anderson, South Carolina, which was one of the biggest production hubs for Singer for many, 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 many years. And they took over all the production for the East Coast. We've got to come out and visit you, and you can show us the area, and you can we can find the remnants of that, hopefully of that Anderson, South Carolina Singer plant. See if we can sneak in there or get permission to sneak in there, and then shoot some video, maybe a live stream showing that the remnants, kind of like I did down in South Bend, Indiana, with the Singer cabinet factory. Y'all remember that, I think. So yeah, Inanna, we got to have a conversation about this. We'll put together a plan. We'll grab Emma, we'll grab Susie, we'll grab Candido, we'll grab a bunch of folks, and we'll all come out and meet you. And then you can be our guide showing us around the Anderson, South Carolina area. Deal? Deal? Oh, that'd be fun. That would be fun, wouldn't it? That would be so fun. Very, very fun. That would be super cool. Super cool. Oh. Hey, well, thank you for your openness to that, Inanna. Now, Inanna, I'm going to give you an opportunity, if you'd be so kind, because you seem like a real sweet gal. Would you be so kind as to delete your own comment where you wrote, "You can get vintage singers here for $50"? If you'll go ahead and remove that, otherwise one of the moderators will remove it. Because again, I talked about it at the beginning of the live stream, and I don't think you were here then, but we try to stay away from mentioning the cheap prices about vintage sewing machines because it diminishes the intrinsic value and the perception of them as a treasure. So there's nothing wrong with getting a great deal on a sewing machine, but we tend to not bring that up in our circle because it cheapens the perceptual value of the machines that we know are really beautiful, wonderful treasures. And no big deal. We all learn from that, and now you know. So thank you for going ahead and deleting that one comment. That's awesome. Yeah, no worries. So the answer, and I'm actually going to show it to you by bringing the machine a little bit closer, and we'll tilt the machine back a little bit so I can show it. See if I can do that. And this is a heavy machine, by the way. This is a heavy machine. Oh yeah. So I'm going to carefully see if I can tilt this back. And if you didn't know it, The Italian serial numbers on a machine like this are going to be right here below the bed surface. This particular serial number, I can read it to you if anyone's curious about it. The serial number on this Italian 512 model is 512, coincidentally. It starts out with the actual model number is the serial number, 512 0039825. Let me see if I can move this a little bit closer. And you may not be able to see that right there. But 512 0039825. So that's where you'll find the serial number on this machine. Now, as far as do the feed dogs drop, it's a little bit hard to see it. Let me see if I can rotate it a little bit more. All right, I'm going to take you upside down real quick. So grab your chair so you don't fall off. So right there, you might be able to see it, hopefully. I have to set the camera down real quick. Right here, if I can bring my hand all the way across, I'm kind of holding the machine. You'll see a little white plastic piece right here. You can see it's rotated up right now. If you look at that, the point on this end, it's rotated up towards the top of the machine. If you rotate that down, it's going to drop the feed dogs. So the answer, does the 512 model allow? The answer is yes. You just have to tilt the machine back, or you could try to open the slide plate and reach in there and just push it down. So if you push this to the down position, your feed dogs will drop for free motion quilting, freehand embroidery, and then you're able to push it back up again when you want to resume the regular feed on the machine. And here you can see the raceway a little bit right there, the raceway system. It does have a clamping mechanism on top right here where my thumb is, has a clamping mechanism that allows you to open up the retainer plate on there, and then you can remove the oscillating hook piece, and you can do a deep cleaning on the raceway, which is really, really essential. You want to keep that raceway nice and tidy, because that's the brain center. That's where the stitching is created, right in here where my thumb is. And a lot of other, you can see as I kind of hold the machine and move across, a lot of other service points across the bottom as well. So I'm going to put the camera back down before I drop it. Oh, I was going to show you the motor as well. Let me go across on the motor real quick. See if we can just get a little glimpse of that. Got to move the machine a little bit closer. You can see the motor back here, rear mounted. And then we have two spool pins, obviously, because this machine is capable of twin needle or dual needle sewing. Twin or dual needle sewing. And as we look at the threading process on this machine, you'll see that the thread points also have two openings as well, which is really outstanding because a lot of the machines will have a single thread point, and the feed of the two threads sometimes can get hampered a little bit. On this Italian model 512, you'll see like right here, we've got two openings, one for each thread when it comes to threading for twin needle sewing. So that makes it a lot more easy on the machine in managing good stitch quality when you're doing twin needle type sewing. All right, so I'll show you the threading real quick, and then we'll look at some of the other features on the machine. So we come across the back, we come through one of the two thread points. It really doesn't matter which one if you're only running one thread. I went with the thread point towards the front just so it would be closer to the upper tension unit. So you come through this thread point right here. You come through this thread point right here, the left of the two holes. And then again with your presser foot lever in the up position so that there's no tension on these discs, you're then going to bring that thread through those discs. You're going to come around, and then you're going to go right between this check spring. That check spring is right there. You see me moving it. You draw that thread carefully between that check spring, and then you've got to come from there, you've got to come underneath this thread guide right here. And then there's a little slat. It's really hard to see it, but there's a little slat or a little cut through right there on that thread guide. And when you come underneath it, you then draw that thread through that little slat right there so that it's housed in that space right there. And then you go up to the take-up arm, you thread the take-up arm from right to left, and then you come back down with that thread. And again, you're going to draw that thread through that little slat. So both threads are going to be housed in this space right here. Both of the threads are going to be housed in there. And then you're going to come straight down here. You may have trouble seeing it, but right there's a little part of the faceplate. It's basically a guide that runs all the way across, and the thread kind of rides on that as you head your way down to the needle. And let me lower that again. So then there's going to be a thread point right here. Hopefully you can see that. I don't know if you can see that or not. There's a thread point right there. There's actually 2 thread points. You'll go in the front of the 2. And then you're going to be threading this needle from left to right. And the flat side of the needle is going to be to the right. So that means the scarf for the needle is going to be on the right side as well. So flat side to the right, and then thread the needle from left to right once you get down to that point. I hope that was clear enough, because I know the light is kind of creating a little bit of a glare, but that's the lay of the land. And then as far as the bobbin case in the Raceway, when you're putting that bobbin case and you're threading it up, you'll basically take your bobbin case in your left hand, your bobbin in your right hand, and your thread will be coming underneath the bottom when you put it into the bobbin case, which means as it's sewing and it's in the machine kind of like this, it'll be turning counterclockwise. So again, bobbin case, thread coming underneath, and it's turning counterclockwise in the sewing process. Okay, so that's the setup on the machine. If you've had your machine set up some other way and you've had problems, now you know why. Yeah, you do. Oh gosh, it's fun. It's fun. Okay, let me see if I can move that over. Again, I don't know what the weight is on this machine. I know somebody's going to ask me, but I would estimate, let me see, I'm in a sitting position. Let's see if we can do this. And I'll use my experience of guesstimating. I would guess it's probably about 35 pounds. It's going to be on the medium to the higher end of 30 pounds. Might even be 36 pounds. But it's a heavy machine. It's built very, very well. Italian engineering and all that good stuff. So, okay. Oh, let me show you the front of the machine too. Sorry about that. We'll take a look at the front of the machine also. Front of the machine. So in just a little bit, and we really don't need it, but I'm going to do it anyway just to show it. A little bit, we'll be winding a bobbin. When you're winding a bobbin, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be going through these 2 right holes. There's a right hole right there, another one right there. I'm going to be coming across with that other auxiliary spool of thread right there. I'm going to be going through that right hole, coming across the machine down to this tensioner, and then straight up to the bobbin here. And then to engage it, you just push this up to lock it into place so that bobbin winding tire is making contact with the rim of the balance wheel. And you'll notice a lot of people don't think about this or don't even know it, but there's a little hole right there. And that's for lubrication. Periodically, you'll want to put just a tiny little drop of oil in there and then turn this so that you're getting a real free movement of that bobbin winding tire when you're winding bobbins. Otherwise, it puts too much drag on the motor. And as that tire ages, it'll actually start to slip. It'll get a flat side on it because it's basically having to turn under so much pressure. So yeah, just put a little drop in and just make sure you don't put too much, or it'll go up onto your wheel, and then your wheel will start slipping, which isn't good. Right here we have reverse. Right here we have stitch length. And the stitch length range is pretty impressive, all the way. I mean, you don't want to go down to 0 anyway, because if you go down to 0, you're not going to get any material feed at all. But you can go all the way up, all the way up to 4 as far as stitch length. So reverse, just push it in, and you have to kind of hold it in when you're sewing, and then let it go when you're done. Here are some there's some, I call them parameter setters. If you want to restrict or retard how far that stitch width can move, this is your stitch width right here. If you want to kind of limit your boundaries, your margins, you can loosen these and screw them in, and basically you'll see a little metal piece right there that will then prevent that lever from moving further than you set it at. But I generally don't use these. Maybe some people do. But again, stitch width, when you're wanting to do a straight stitch, this is going to be on 0, like it is right now. If you're wanting to do zigzagging, you move it somewhere between 1 and 5, somewhere between 1 and 5. This is going to be your needle position. You can see right now we're on center needle position. If I push it down and over, left needle position. If I push it down and right needle position. So quite a few things, but I still think it's really quite a simple machine to operate. It's very user friendly. I see my fingers were dirty. I got a little splot right there. Hold on. I wash my hands probably about 30 to 40 times a day. It's amazing they don't fall off. All right. What else do we have to cover? I don't know if we have anything else that we need to cover, really. Oh, let's see here. Oh, the other thing I'll point out, and it may not be obvious because of the lighting, but this is also on this Necchi Model 512. This is also a high shank presser foot. So just be aware of that if you're looking for replacement presser feet for your Necchi machine, whether it's a 510, a 512, or a 513. It's gonna have to be a high shank. I think you can kind of sort of see that. Right, almost got it. There it is. Kind of a high shank, yeah. I'm thinking I might almost block that light off for sewing. Let me see if I can do that real quick. I think we'll be able to see the stitches much easier. Give me just a second. I'll block that off. Put a little bit of blue painter's tape on there. And a little bit of my stiffener. See, if you're just using a sewing machine, it's generally not a cumbersome thing to have that LED light going. But if you're working with a camera, it can create all kinds of challenges in that camera being able to focus on what's happening down by the needle. I'm sure I cut that way too big. Let's see. I love that little red light on there too. That's kind of fun, isn't it? A lot of the Japanese machines did that as well. All right, so that's way too big. Still too big. There we go. That's pretty close. Yeah, I think that'll help a little bit as far as the camera being able to show you what we're doing. Hopefully this tape actually sticks to that. Oh no, I've got to cover up our little red light. Oh boy. It's not pretty, but it's functional. I put a little piece on the back too, so it doesn't drop off in the middle. Couple times I've tried to do this with the light on, and it's always a little bit of a disaster. Yeah, that doesn't look too bad. And then it's a lot easier to see. If you look at the stitching, it's a lot easier to see down on the stitching without that glary LED light. Flexibility and adapting, right? Flexibility and adapting. Okay. Well, let's start. I'll show you the sew-offs that I have ready too. Got some good old 100% cotton with a stiffener. We probably will start with that. I just got done cutting this denim. Then on the lighter side, I have some of this velvet material that's used for the holidays and other decorative things. I've got some bubble gum material as well. It's going to have a lot of vinyl in it. You can see that as I'm stretching it, especially that direction. We've got some commercial canvas. Got some canvas as well. Some of this vinyl paper, kind of fun stuff to sew. Protected full grain leather. Genuine elk hide. And I think the last of what I have over here is saddle grade leather. And then with the saddle grade leather, I'll do this final sew off going around in a circle on this larger of the piece right there. So I've got a fair amount of leather. And again, I don't have a leather needle in the machine. I've got a universal needle, but that universal needle size 9014 should be able to get the job done for us just fine. So if anyone has a strong feeling after I get done sewing this cotton as to what you would like to see next, please let me know that. And I'll go ahead and sew that material so that you can see that material being sewn on. Let's see, I got to move all my stuff over here. I use my little vintage car as far as holding the wires back. Okay, I think I'm finally set. After all of that fun. Okay, let's do this 100% cotton and then we'll move on from there and we'll sew some of these other materials. Yeah, that helps a lot. I'm looking at the laptop and I can actually see my finger. Before that, it was just like a white glare, like a space alien was landing their spaceship there or something like that. All right, presser foot is down. Let's start with a good old straight stitch. I'll go longest length, and then I'll go ahead and shorten that straight stitch up quite a bit, and then we'll move over into the zigzag realm, going down this 100% cotton as well. And where I get my cotton from are the fat quarters that they offer at Walmart. Originally you could buy those fat quarters for about $1.99. Now I think they're up to $1.25, but I can get quite a bit on one of those. And so that's a good option for you if you want to just do some stitching with the grandkids or little projects or whatever. All right, so let's give this a go. We'll start with that straight stitch, and then we'll kind of move on to some other stitching after that. All right, here we go. And this has a lot of get up and go. I'm going to have to remember that when I hit that foot controller, because it launches in a serious way. Launches in a very serious way. And I'm looking at the tension right now between top and bottom. I'm seeing that our top stitch, take a close look at that. Our top stitch is probably a little bit, let me just double check here. No, it's straighter. It's a better balance than I thought. I was just kind of looking at it initially to see if we might be getting a little bit of extra pull down there from that bobbin case. It's pulling a little bit too hard, because when you look at the stitches comparatively, here, let me get a little bit closer. I'll show you our first stitch off here. And this is where I hit the gas and I kind of lost my direction a little bit. So you'll see a little dip there as I wasn't feeding the material straight. But I'm seeing a little bit of an extra pull on that top stitch, which means that our bobbin case might be pulling just a little bit too hard. And the evidence of that, when you look at the stitch, you compare it to the lock stitch on the bottom, the top stitch will almost look like it's a little bit smaller as far as the length of that stitch. It's a very good looking stitch, very, very good looking stitch. But I look at things with a lot of scrutiny, because we can always make it better, right? Very, very nice looking stitch. Lock stitch. Let's lay down a shorter straight stitch now and compare the two side by side. So I'm going to take that stitch length and I'm going to move us down to about 12 stitches per inch. And again, our stitch length is right over here. And we don't have the same way of measuring it as we do on a lot of the machines. So we just have to estimate that if we're going from a setting of 4 down to probably about a little bit below 3, almost at 2.5, we should be right around 12 to 15 stitches per inch. So I'm going to move it in there. It's a little bit of a guesstimation, but we'll see how that stitch looks when we give that a go. All right, so let's do this next stitch line. And again, I say it all the time, make sure that when you launch that you have your take-up arm all the way up so that you don't get any mechanical binding. All right, here we go. A short, much shorter straight stitch now. Hopefully I can show a little bit straighter this time. Yeah, that's probably pretty close to about 12 to 15 stitches per inch. I'd have to measure them to see for sure, but let's see here. Where's my other tape measure? There it is. You know, maybe not quite as long as I thought. If I put it right about there. So we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So here we've got right around 6 stitches per inch, and then we dropped it all the way down to 14. So now let's move into a zigzag and see how this machine does with a zigzag. Generally, machines that have that oscillating hook are going to do really, really well when it comes to zigzag quality. So let's give that a try now. I'm going to adjust our width now. We were on 0, adjusted from 0 all the way up to 5. So we're going to go for the widest zigzag that we can get, and then we're going to adjust our stitch length from around 2.5 all the way back up to 4. So we've got our stitch length on 4, we've got our stitch width on 5. Maybe I could bring it down to 4 just to try to keep it even. But let's see what that zigzag looks like when we lay it down in this 100% cotton. Again, get that take-up arm all the way up. All right, here we go. I wonder if I bent that needle. I've got one spot that the needle just missed the thread. Interesting. Let me try that again. If it does it again, I might have to swap that needle out. I was doing some cleaning around the bed, and I might have bumped that needle. It's really, really easy to, not as easy to bend a size 100 or a 110, but a 90 can get a little bit of a bend in it. Let me try that one more time. All right, I'm going to switch out that needle real quick because I think I might have bent it. I'm getting an anomaly when I'm laying down that zigzag stitching, so just bear with me for a second while I do that. Hold on one second. Maybe I can put on some of my Italian music while I switch up the needle. On a little bit of Italian music real quick while we're doing that, and I'll get a quick drink of water so that I can keep my whistle wet. Let's see here. That's a happier stitch right there. So once in a while, you will be working around your sewing machine and you won't even realize that you've done it. Kind of like I didn't realize I was working, as Susie and Emma know, I was working in the shop real late last night, really quite late, almost until around 11 p.m. Central Time. And I wanted to clean off the machine a little bit as well once I got done with the final servicing of it, was going around with a microfiber cloth. And somehow I was being real careful, but somehow inadvertently ended up bumping the needle. And with a 9014, it doesn't take much. And yeah, so always check, check the basics. If you all of a sudden have an issue, your machine has been doing well. If you all of a sudden have an issue, check the basics, check the needle, check the thread, check the bobbin case, because sometimes it's just a simple little thing that can get you back on track again. All right. Now I'm going to take that zigzag way down on this 100% cotton, take it down on width to, let's take it to about 1.5. Take our stitch length down to about 2, 1.5 and 2. That should give us a real nice tight zigzag. It's going to look almost like a mending stitch. All right, here we go. Let's see here. Give me 1 second here. Aha. Here's another thing that you need to check sometimes. I took this out because I knew that we had just corrected the issue of the potential bent needle. With these particular class 15 style bobbin cases, when you're threading them up, like I explained at the beginning of the live stream, you're going to take that bobbin and you're going to slide it into the bobbin case with that thread underneath, and you're going to draw it through this little slat here underneath the tensioner, the tensioning band. Sometimes, because of how big these bobbins are, sometimes that thread will work its way back out away from that tension band. And that was the second problem that we just encountered, which all of a sudden becomes a great lesson for us on why partly we were battling that stitch issue as well, along with the needle. I'm sure the needle was bent slightly, but our thread had also slipped on a position on the bobbin case. So instead of being underneath this tension band right here, it had worked its way back out of that groove, and we were losing our tension down on the bobbin case. All right, so let's put this back in. I've said this to Susie and Emma. I said anything that can go wrong is generally going to go wrong on a live stream. And that's okay. We just take it a step by step and we overcome the problem. So you can click that back into place, put your thread underneath here, and then we'll draw it back up again. And let me show you what it looks like when you have that thread slip on a position on your bobbin case. It hadn't happened on the first stitch off because we did the first stitch off here with a zigzag, and it was good to go. Look at what happened here when we lost our bobbin tension, when that thread slid from underneath that tension band, and there was literally no tension for that top stitch whatsoever. And then it throws off the lock stitch as well. Doesn't look good, does it? They look like quite a contrast between our first stitch line and then our second stitch line. Now that we've rethreaded the bobbin case, let's see what that stitch looks like now. Get my orientation here. Yeah, it should be like this. Let's see what that looks like now. So the top row and the bottom row, I think they look a little different. See if I can get that into position. So I say it all the time. How important is the tension factor? How important how important is it to have your bobbin case properly threaded, to have the machine properly threaded, to have the needle orientated correctly? It makes or breaks a stitch line like the one in the middle, or you get a stitch line like the one on the bottom. Then our lock stitch again. The first stitch line we did with that larger zigzag looks great. Page 34 plus. Then we had that, we'll call it a bobbin malfunction, almost like a wardrobe malfunction. We had a bobbin malfunction of that thread slipping on a position, and we got that middle stitch row that you see right there, which is a nightmare. Really quite a nightmare. We resolved that issue straight away, and then we did the final stitch line on the bottom there, furthest to, I guess it would be your right. And then all of a sudden, that Italian beauty is happy again. And I'm sure numerous people have had issues with their class 15 bobbins occasionally having that little anomaly where the thread will slip on a position. And that's what it looks like right there. See that? It's okay if things go wrong when you're on a live stream, as long as we know how to fix them. As long as we can diagnose the problem and come up with a solution. All right, let's move on from the cotton now. We'll move on from the cotton now that we have been truly tested. And I promised you that we would wind a bobbin, which I haven't done yet. So let's pretend like we're out of thread, even though we're not. And we'll wind a bobbin on this Necchi machine real quick so you can see that done. See if I can rotate the machine a little bit. We're going to take that auxiliary spool of thread. And like I said, without having to unthread the machine, we'll take that right thread point on the thread guide. Oops, I'm pointing it the wrong way. Hold on. We'll come through the right holes of that thread guide on top. Oops, I got to cut the end of the thread. And we'll come through the other thread guide right here on the front. And we're going to come across the machine. Down through this tensioner right here. Come right underneath it like so. This little bell tensioner. So we just came underneath there. We came straight up. Now we're going to put our bobbin on. Snap it onto place. And we'll give it a couple of winds around the bobbin. Okay, hopefully that's going to be enough. And then to engage, you just push it to the up position like that. So we've got good contact. The clutch on the side is going to be the same as you see on the other machine. Just go ahead and rotate it. Hold the balance wheel, rotate the clutch towards you. So we can disengage the clutch. And then we'll see if we can begin the winding process. So you don't need to unthread this machine. There's not a specific thread point down here in order to wind a bobbin while you're in the middle of a project. So hopefully I can get this going without a lot of drama. And again, if you're winding a bobbin like this and you're noticing right now we're getting a real nice distribution across the bobbin evenly. If you're getting a heavier concentration on the left side, then you'll want to loosen this little screw down here and move this bobbin tensioner to the right slightly. If you're getting a heavier concentration of thread on the right side, then go ahead and loosen that screw and move this assembly here slightly to the left. So you move away from the heavier concentration. It's heavier on the left. You're going to move this to the right. If it's heavier on the right on the bobbin as you're winding it, you're going to move it to the left, the opposite direction. That way you don't have to hold the thread and go back and forth. Our spool in the back is trying to jump over. All right, that's good enough. Bring that down, go and take this bobbin back off. You can see here, if you look at it carefully, we've got a nicely wound bobbin. It's very, very even. And that's a product of the way that we've threaded it and set it up, but also a product of this tensioner down here being positioned properly. This tensioner is positioned from left to right in the right position to make sure that we get that even distribution across that bobbin while we're winding it. I hear complaints all the time from customers that bring machines in or send machines in. They'll say, my machine just will not wind a good bobbin. It just never winds a good bobbin. And that's a product really of making a couple of simple little adjustments. And I've shown that to them and I've explained that to them. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, I guess my machine can wind a great bobbin. I just was doing it wrong. I had the machine set up wrong. So, you know, any problem can be overcome generally when it comes to a sewing machine if you're just, take a deep breath, you're patient, you do a quick analysis, kind of like we did when we got those anomalies with the stitches. We addressed the needle straight away, and then I dug a little bit deeper and I found that that thread had slipped out of position on the bobbin case. All of a sudden, we're back on track again. So be confident and curious about your machine. And then when you encounter a problem, you're able to overcome it much, much easier. Much, much easier. All right, let's get this back into position. Now let's see if we can move on to some other stitching. We've done cotton. And we'll see if we can move on to maybe some denim now. Maybe we can do some denim. We'll give that a go. So we've got a choice here. I've got a light thread. I probably should put the darker side out. Actually, that's lighter there. I'm going to go with this darker piece here. I'll put the other one to the side. So I'm going to fold it in half, get us up to 2 layers. I'm going to bring that in the middle, get us up to 4 layers. And one more time to get us all the way up to 6 layers. 6 layers is about the max when it comes to using a 90-14 needle. On a couple of machines, we even ran into problems with 6 layers until we moved the needle size up to a size 100 or 110. But we're going to try it on this Italian machine. 6 layers of denim. It's not a thin sew-off, as you can see. Not a thin sew-off at all. And we'll see if this, our new needle that we just put in, along with our properly threaded bobbin case, will be able to accomplish this. The other thing I have to consider is, do I have enough presser foot clearance? Hopefully I do, because this Italian machine has a slight hyperextension. You can see me flexing it right there. It gives us probably about another 1 to 2 millimeters. We'll see if we can get that into position and lay down a zigzag going down this 100% denim. It's got a little bit of spandex in it. The other thing I'll do, since we're dealing with 6 layers, is I'm going to bump up our presser foot pressure real quick, which is right up here. Give that about a good solid turn. That should give us enough presser foot pressure to feed this material evenly. And then we're going to see if we can lay down a zigzag down this. Probably go with a 2x2 and move on to some of the other materials. See what we think of this as a first sew off. The other thing I got to do real quick, you notice where my take-up bar is right now, my take-up lever? You got to bring that all the way to the top. You can also take that extra spool of thread off. That doesn't have to be on there right now. Now, whenever you're feeding thread next to another thread, winding a bobbin like that, I'm going to check my threading real quick just to make sure nothing's moved out of alignment. Everything is where it's supposed to be. Just going to check that bobbin case one more time. Hold on just a second. Let's make sure these bobbin cases are something because of how thin the gauge is on that tension band. They are something that eventually will require replacement. I made a general determination that this is in good operating condition when I went through, but if the customer has a problem with that thread slipping out of position more than just once in a blue moon, then I'll recommend that she goes ahead and replaces the bobbin case. But right now it should be okay. Let's draw that thread up again. We're getting really good at drawing thread up during this live stream today. We're going to be thread upper experts. All right, let's get that back into position. Now I have to fold that material again. That's okay. There's 4. There's 6. So this is what we're going to be attempting with a zigzag. And again, whenever you're sewing through something with this many layers, with a little bit of spandex, and you're also dealing with the factor of needle swing, we're not just laying down a straight stitch. We're trying to lay down a zigzag. There is the opportunity for skip stitching. There is the opportunity for stitch deformity. So we're going to give it a go and see how we do. I didn't test this off camera. Hopefully we get success. All right, presser foot is down. Take up arm is all the way up. All right, keep your fingers and toes crossed. Let's give this a go. Here we go. Just going to make that a little bit wider. Very, very nice. Very difficult to see, even as wide as that zigzag is. But a beautiful outcome. I'm hoping you're going to be able to see this stitching. I commented in one of the last live streams, I was hoping to find a denim that's darker. I've got to dig through my denim pile and see if I can find a darker denim, because this did a beautiful job of stitching that, but the denim is so light and the thread is so light. Let's see, catch a glimpse of those stitches. I hope we can. You see them? There they are. I've got to go either to a darker thread or I've got to, yeah, it's a beautiful zigzag. It really is. Just the light thread and light denim makes it a little bit of a challenge to see it, doesn't it? There's our lock stitch. If I go from an angle like that, it kind of shows up a little bit better that way. Beautiful lock stitch. And also top stitch as well, from what we can see anyway. Here it is. Through 6 layers of heavy grade denim that has spandex in it as well. So beautiful sew off with this zigzag going through a very tough sew off. So now what do you think we should try next? We've got a variety of different things we can do. We've got velvet, super light side. We've got bubblegum material. We've got canvas. We've got, what is this stuff called? Nylon, not nylon. Let me look at the box. I'm getting a brain cramp right now. Oh yeah, vinyl paper. I was in the right neck of the woods. I was going to say vinyl, but then I thought I was wrong. This is the stuff we're using right here. It's the vinyl paper that you can pick up at your local Dollar Tree and probably a number of other craft centers as well. But it's fun to sew this vinyl paper. It really does present on this glossy type backing. It presents a beautiful stitch. And then we've got all kinds of leather over here. Uh, Saddle grade leather. We've got protected full grain leather. We've got elk hide as well. We've got elk hide also. So I'm just going to look at the live chat real quick and see if there's any direct input on what we should try stitching next. Saddle grade leather, please. Let's see what else. Bubblegum material. So it looks like we'll probably launch into some leather because there were a lot of requests for leather. So why don't we try laying on this genuine elk hide first, and then we'll kind of go from there. Let's see. We'll lay down a zigzag first on the elk hide. And then we'll see if we can lay down a, debating if I want to do 2 layers of elk hide on this machine or not. Let's see how it does with a single layer, and then we'll see if we're going to do 2 after that. All right, so let's give this a go. Here we go. I'll get you a little bit closer. Very nice. Very, very nice. Just check our tension here. Tension looks like we maintain some good tension. That's our lock. That's our top. We'll take a look at that. See if we can lay down a straight on there as well. Kind of debating if I want to go. What do y'all think? Should we try 2 layers? See if we can maintain stitch quality through 2 layers of elk hide. There's a single layer right there. You can see it's about 3 to 4 ounces of leather. Not crazy thick. Really depends on where it comes from the hide. Here you got a much thicker as it goes through this part of the hide. And it laid down just a really, really lovely zigzag. Very, very nice. Very, very nice zigzag. I've got my settings off a little bit. I like the zigzag when it has more of a little bit more of a defined peak on it. And this is a softer peak. I don't like that quite as much, but it still laid down a beautiful stitch. Same thing on the lock stitch as well. Kind of go to the back over here. Look at that lock stitch. Hopefully we can see it through the nap. Here you totally lose it in the nap over there. Kind of pull it back a little bit. Yeah, so it handled 1 layer of elk hide very, very nicely. Let me see if what y'all are saying in the chat. Should we try 2? Yeah, Emma's saying go for it. No fear. Candido's saying no fear. So let's see if we can pull off 2 layers. Now 2 layers are going to look like this, just so you know what we're taking on here. This is what 2 layers looks like right there. And this is something a lot of people would not try on an Italian Beauty. They wouldn't try it on most any vintage sewing machine. Because when you're getting up to this level, let me show you this end as well. When you're getting up to this level, that's thicker than a belt. That's thicker than a heavy belt. you're probably looking at 10 to 12 ounces of leather. So the fact that we're going to try to sew this with a Necchi sewing machine that has a motor that peaks at 0.7 amps, and we're sewing with a non-leather needle, a point 0.9 0.98 14 needle, a size 14 needle, universal. We don't have the benefit of a point that's going to have kind of a razor edge to it to cut through this leather. Our universal needles are going to have a slightly rounded point, slightly rounded. So it's going to have a lot of force to get through this much leather. And it's going to have a lot of force to open that hole up so that we don't have skip stitching. That's the other thing you face. If that needle is not able to cut a clean hole going through that material, and then it tries to pull that thread, you're going to run into problems with skip stitching. So we'll give it our best. We'll give it a try, but I can't guarantee what the results will be until we do it. The machine can handle it, but the needle may not be the best choice if we're going this thick. We'll give it a try. See what we think. Oh, let me make it even harder. Since we're going with something crazy, instead of putting in the same direction, the same grain, let's put them back to back so we can see that stitch quality without having to try to look through that nap, without having to fight that nap. We'll put them back to back. But it's like it boards when you go against the grain with leather and you try to push a needle through it, it's going to raise that piercing threshold even higher than it is already. And we've already got a monumental challenge with this Italian beauty. Look at that. We already have a monumental challenge. So we're going to do our best, as we always do, see if we can pull this off. This is the thick of the thick of the thick. Crazy thick. All right, keep your fingers and toes crossed. We'll see what we can do. Yeah, I'll just be honest. I'm a little bit nervous because I didn't try this off camera. So we'll see what we can do. We get that camera down there. All right. Well, like Candido said, no fear, no fear. We're just going to try it. If it's too much, then it's too much. I could always change the needle and put a leather needle in, couldn't I? All right. And all the Schmetz people watching right now, take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. Matter of fact, we'll be incredibly optimistic. That was neat. And we'll do the easy button even before we try it. All right, fingers and toes. Let's see what happens. Here we go. I was holding the power back. That's not the motor. The motor's strong. I was holding the power back because I wanted to give that oscillating hook an opportunity to do its magic. If I push that hook too fast as it's going back and forth, we've got the possibility of skipping a stitch. So you slow yourself down, almost like when we're using those double eye needles that Schmetz is not having a lot of success with. I think I'm safe in saying that. They're not getting a lot of good feedback on those double eye needles I showed you, where they, instead of a twin needle side by side, they've got an eye over an eye. They're not getting good feedback on that. And the thing they tell you with those needles is straight away, slow your sewing down significantly so that thread can get caught by that hook. Otherwise, you're going to run into problems. Oh my goodness gravy. I never doubt workshop magic. I don't doubt workshop magic for a second, but I do doubt sometimes my judgment in the setup that I use and the sew-offs I try to take on. Sewing this much leather with a non-leather needle is a little bit crazy, but crazy is fun sometimes. So the top stitch, the one right here, and again, I'm going to show you what we just went through. The top stitch row is the first one we did through a single layer of genuine elk hide. The bottom stitch row is the second stitch off we just did through 2 layers. So let's check those out and see what you think. I'm just going to say I love it. I love it. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. You think about the obstacles we already had to overcome during this live stream. We never give up, ever. We can encounter problems all day long. We're just going to keep on trudging. I'll tell you one thing, I actually like that second stitch row on the bottom that went through 2 layers, more than the top one. But I'll be honest with you, off camera, I made it even a little bit wider, which makes it even more challenging. The more needle swing, the more likely you are to have challenges going through this much leather with a non-leather needle. Unbelievable. And yes, Candido, your Swedish beauty will be able to do this too. Your Swedish beauty will be able to do this. Beautiful, beautiful top stitching. Beautiful top stitching. Now, what are we going to see? Because you know the lock stitch is always harder, especially when you're pulling it through this much leather. Look at that leather. Show me anywhere else on YouTube or on the internet where somebody is using a Necchi 512 to sew this much leather. You're not going to find it. You're just not. But we do stuff like this on this channel all the time because, like Candido said, Cow Country family, no fear. No fear. Y'all want to see the lock stitch? This is what our lock stitch looks like. And we didn't make any tension adjustment at all. We bumped up the presser foot pressure. We ended up making it a little bit wider, which is kind of insane because that makes it even more tough. Remember, it's like a bridge. The wider you go with that zigzag, the more of a stretch and almost like a bridge, the more that thread is being tested from a tension standpoint because it's being pulled further and further apart from those needle points going through the leather. All right, lock stitch, enough drama. That's what we went through again. Lock stitch. That is a good looking lock stitch, y'all. That is a good looking lock stitch. Very, very nice looking lock stitch. Look at the thickness. It's just insane, isn't it? Without a leather needle. Without a leather needle. Without a leather needle. Absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on. I'm going to call that a success. And then some. That's a success and then some. So far in this live stream, and we'll probably not sew everything that I have ready. We're probably not going to sew everything because we're already going on 2 hours and 20 minutes. But we did this crazy sew off with this elk hide right there. We battled a little bit with the cotton because of a suspected bent needle. I was wiping around the machine. It was about 11 o'clock, a little bit after 11 o'clock last night. I was maybe rushing a little bit, and I carelessly just bumped that needle and created a little bit of a bend on it. And then also our bobbin case malfunctioned, allowed that thread to slip out of the track. And so we were getting no bobbin tension whatsoever. But we overcame it and had success on this 100% cotton as well. So obstacles, they don't mean a thing as long as you overcome them, right? Then we did this 6 layers of denim, and it's harder than heck to see it because of the light material, the light thread, but laid down a beautiful zigzag on that as well. Beautiful zigzag. And then we finally initially did the straight stitching on 100% cotton as well. So a little bit of a sew-off sandwich already going on. Do a couple other sew-offs. Maybe we'll go to the light side now. Maybe we'll try going to the light side and try this velvet material. Velvet material is real slippery. We'll see if we can lay down some zigzag stitching on this leather material, maybe a straight stitch as well. And then we'll move on to something else. All right, get that in place. Got to remember to lighten this way up for leather. You're going to back that off a little bit, give it about two full turns counterclockwise. Again, when you're sewing much lighter material, and on this velvet, you don't want to go super light on the presser foot pressure because this stuff is slippery and you need a little bit more pressure pushing down on it. A little bit more pressure pushing down on it. I think that was a notification from Susie. I know her ringtone. Oh, hey, Christine from Canada, our lost Canadian friend. I'm so glad you're okay, dear. I've sent you a bunch of text messages, but I didn't ask for a response. I just would send you updates after live streams and that, but I'm so glad you're okay. Yeah, Wahoo is right. Susie wrote Wahoo. We love you, Christine. Glad you're safe, dear. Know you got a lot you're taking care of. Know you have a lot going on. Just checking something else while I got my phone real quick in my hand. Okay, I think we're good. Yeah, great to have Christine from Canada. Christine, make sure you check out that live stream of Emma's brother's 185J. You get a chance. We had our Canadian Mountie out and everything. So, all right, let's see if we can lay it on a zigzag on this slippery velvet stuff now. And I'm going to see if I'm going to really kind of push the boundaries here a little bit. I'm going to go to our widest point. This again is our stitch width, our stitch length. We're going to go to our widest and our longest point on this velvet material. See if we can lay down a really nice big zigzag on there. Hopefully we have enough presser foot feet. I didn't adjust it too far down. And we'll see how we do on this slippery velvet material. All right. Get our take-up arm all the way up. All right. Let's zigzag this baby. Let's zigzag it. Yeah, I like that one. But what is our lock stitch going to look like? Yeah, we did maintain it. Sometimes on a lighter sew off like this, because you have such little displacement for that knot to be centered between the top layer and the bottom layer, you sometimes can fight the tension on a thin sew off much more so than on a heavy sew off. But it looks like we had success. Let me show this to you. So this is our 100% velvet. We made only a couple adjustments on the machine. We didn't do anything to the tension. We adjusted the presser foot pressure. This is our top stitch. And this is the widest and longest. We've got this at the max setting for the zigzag right now. It's at the max setting. Very, very nice. But you see what I'm saying? When you go to a max setting on stitch length and width, you've got a strike point there with a needle, you got a strike point there, and then you've got the thread needing to be supported between those two strike points. The wider you go, the longer you go, the more that tension becomes a factor. So just keep that in mind as you're sewing different materials. If you're wanting a longer, wider stitch, you're going to have to maybe make some tension adjustments. In this instance, we didn't, even on this slippery, tricky velvet material. So a beautiful, beautiful zigzag top stitch. Excuse me. It doesn't get much better than that, folks. It just doesn't get much better than that. Very, very nice. Very nice. Lock stitch. Lock stitch is just as spot on. And again, we didn't make any tension adjustment. I'm really, really pleased. We've been able to maintain, because of the way that I fine tuned this machine, we've been able to maintain beautiful stitch quality through as much as 12 ounces of leather and as little as two thin little layers of velvet with beautiful, beautiful tension balance top and bottom. That's really a testimony of how precision calibrated this machine is now. Beautiful, beautiful stitching. So that's our lock stitch and our top stitch. So velvet, we've gone from crazy, crazy, crazy. Are you out of your mind, Scott? We've gone from crazy 2 layers of saddle grade, or excuse me, 2 layers of genuine elk hide to this thin, thin, crazy velvet. You can see it right there without a single tension adjustment on the machine. No tension adjustment whatsoever. And absolutely page 34 plus stitching. Page 34 plus stitching all the way around. Workshop magic, y'all. Workshop magic. Beautiful job. Beautiful job. I think someone should ask for bubblegum material. Bubblegum material, again, is going to give us a real big challenge when it comes to the potential for skip stitches because of that vinyl content in this stuff. We're going to give it a go. I'm probably going to go same direction on this. I've tried feeding this before with the slippery side down, and we really had quite a few challenges with that. So I'm going to go same direction on this, but we'll leave it on a wide zigzag so we should be able to see things very, very easily. I'm also going to cut this down a little bit so we don't waste the material. I don't have a whole lot of the bubblegum material left, so. And these are the Guggenheim scissors right here. I know a couple of you have had the opportunity to win these. I'll be giving another set away soon, but these are wonderful, wonderful scissors. They do really quite a lovely job, a lovely, lovely job of going through practically anything you want to cut. Of course, they can't guarantee that the cut will be straight when I'm using them. It's not even, yeah, that's not real straight, but use your imagination, right? Use your imagination. All right, let's try another zigzag. We'll go for the widest zigzag that we can do. I'm going to leave the settings on the machine just like they are. Right now, we're set on 5 for stitch width. It's all the way to the right. We're set on 4, which is our longest stitch length. And we're going to see if we can lay down stitching on this heavily vinyl content bubble gum material, get some beautiful stitch quality, maintain tension. I'm hoping we can maintain tension on this and also have no skip stitches. So that's a lot to ask. It's fairly easy for the machine, but it's still a very tricky process. Very, very tricky. So we'll do our best. Take up arm all the way up. I'm gonna check one thing real quick because I'm still a little bit still a little bit skeptical about that bobbin case. I may end up, before this machine is picked up by Mary, I may end up changing that bobbin case out. I'll have to see if I can get a replacement for it. Just bear with me for a second. I'm feeling a little bit of resistance on there. Yeah, we're still in the correct. I'm just going to show you real quick. We're still in the correct position as far as that thread in the bobbin case. We're still under the proper point as far as that tension band. I'm going to leave it alone for now, but I may change that out before Mary picks this machine up. I don't want her to have any trouble with that bobbin case misbehaving. And the good thing about what I'm doing with popping it open like that and showing you and all that, you can see it's not a difficult process to do a spot check if you sense that something might be going on with one of the components of your sewing machine. You can do it very quickly, and with your experience, with your knowledge you gain in the classroom, uh, you can troubleshoot something pretty quick and have success doing it. All right, so let's try these. We're going to go with two. I got to cut that. That's so doggone crooked. It's driving me buggy. I think that's better. Maybe a little better. Not much better, but a little bit better. All right, let's try a super wide zigzag on this bubblegum material and see if we can maintain good tension with it. Take up arms all the way up. Let's see if we can get this done. All right, here we go. And again, we're laying down the widest zigzag that this machine will do. It's a 5 on the stitch width, and it's a 4 on the stitch length. Very, very nice. Yeah, and I'm pleased as well with the tension balance that we maintained. I'll show this to you real quick. So this obviously our top stitch. You can tell that because that's the top of the material. We got the backside facing down. But here's our top stitch. And again, this has a lot of vinyl in it, a lot of vinyl. Vinyl, if you sew that at all in your sewing space, you know that it distorts stitching very, very easily. It does a really good job of distorting and causing skip stitching and everything else. None of that going on with this Italian beauty. None of that. Absolutely spot on. You have a lighting issue here. Let me turn this out a little bit. There we go. Very, very nice. Again, this is 2 layers of bubblegum material. Here's our lock stitching on the back. Also beautiful, and we haven't done a single thing as far as adjusting tension. Not a single thing. So lock stitching and top stitching on bubblegum material, 2 layers of it. Beautiful job by this Italian beauty that Mary will soon be picking up. So I'm going to add this to our little pile in the back. Again, if you joined us a little bit late, we've done, I'll just set it right here. We've done cotton. We've done, we just did the bubblegum material. We did more cotton, and that's when we did some troubleshooting. We swapped out the needle because I believe that I had bent it late last night. And then we also re-threaded the bobbin case where the thread had slipped out of position. Got a beautiful result there. We also did this super thin velvet. Beautiful outcome. 6 layers of denim that has spandex in it. And then also these 2 crazy layers of genuine elk hide. I wish you could feel this stuff in your own hands. I mean, it feels like we're bending a saddle. It feels like we're bending a saddle, literally. This is really hardcore stuff. So already, I think we've done a really good job of putting this Italian beauty to the test. But we're going to play a little bit more before we wrap this up. We'll just play a little bit more, just a little bit, just a wee little bit. Let me just take a quick break. If you've ever been in a public speaking type of role where you have to talk to an audience and you talk for an extended period of time, I think you know that it really puts a strain on your voice. And so I have to remind myself while I'm doing a live stream like this, I've got to remind myself to take a quick little break, rest my voice for a second, drink a little bit of Diet Coke or water, and then jump back into things again. So that I don't have a crackly voice, hopefully. Hopefully. But I hope you've enjoyed this live stream so far. We've covered a lot of things. We've shared a lot of information back and forth. You've seen challenges. You've seen little struggles, little bumps in the road, but it hasn't daunted us in any way. We take the challenge straight on. We overcome it. We have success, and we move on. Yeah, that's what a cow country family does. They encounter challenges and they move on with success. Just checking something real quick. I'm managing a number of things, even outside of the sewing business right now. So I'd seen a message come through, and I just needed to take a real quick peek at that message to make sure that it didn't require an immediate response. And we should be good to go. So, okay, let's move forward. I'm going to get one more quick little sip of Diet Coke. I believe it was Susie that said to me, she said, we were having a text conversation. She said, Scott, you're such a natural teacher. She said, you're such a natural teacher. I don't think you realize how did she put it? Maybe she can type in the live chat what she said, but she basically said, you don't realize how much you're sharing and how much insight, knowledge, blah, 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 you're giving folks. You just don't, you do it so naturally. You just share it like it's no big deal. And then all of a sudden, folks are able to take that information out into their circles. And that was an Emma text message, I believe. Let me see. Emma just sent me something. Oh, okay. Yeah, excellent. Emma just sent me a note, and I did not point it out, and she's absolutely right. She said, what is the gauge? What is the gauge on the front of the faceplate? This is for presser foot pressure. You can see it right here. It's got numbers from 1 to 9. So if you look at our gauge right now, it looks like we're right about at 5. Right about at 5. Let me try to get even closer. So as you increase and decrease pressure foot pressure, the Italians are very smart. And I've talked about it before where sometimes you just have to guess when you adjust the pressure foot pressure. You have to guess kind of how much pressure you have. Well, the Italians have added this little gauge right here so that you can tell by a number how close you are to the maximum for that pressure foot pressure. Get right there. So we're right about in the middle right now, aren't we? We adjusted it back a little bit for the velvet. We did not adjust it again for the bubblegum material. But if we do more leather, we'll probably bump it back up again, just a little bit higher, maybe between 6 and 7. But you could go all the way up to 9. You can go all the way up to 9. So yeah, that this correlates. Great question, Emma. This correlates directly to this. And again, if you need to service this area or change out the light bulb, you just take out this single little bolt. It's almost hard to see it because it's so deeply recessed. You'll need a long screwdriver and then just pull that bolt out, and then you can go ahead and remove the whole faceplate cover for servicing the bulb and or adding that reflective tape to create even more of a push down of that light to the bed in the needle area. But yeah, great question, Emma. I forgot to point that out. So, all right, what else do we have? Why don't we goof around with this vinyl paper stuff? This vinyl paper stuff, again, you can buy it at your Dollar Tree. You can buy it other places, probably craft centers. It's a fun thing to use maybe with your grandchildren or your kids or the neighbor kids or whoever. Uh, it's very inexpensive. You can get a square of this. I think it's 12 by 12. You can cut several strips like this out of it, and then it allows you to let them stitch away. Just create something fun without necessarily using uh, more costly fabric. You can use this instead of fabric with your kiddos and give them a chance to stitch away without wasting potentially valuable fabric if they're just kind of goofing around and kind of exploring a little bit. So we will try stitching down this as well. We'll go for that nice wide zigzag. Again, this is vinyl. It's a vinyl paper, so it will try to trip us up with some skip stitches. It will try to trip us up with some distorted stitch quality. Hopefully we can maintain it. Again, we haven't made a single adjustment to this upper tension. We can finish this live stream without adjusting that at all. That's a huge testimony to how well this machine is tuned and adjusted and just overflowing goozy woozy with workshop magic right about now. So, all right, let's give this a go, see what we think. All right, here we go. And listen to that because it's a paper base. We're really having to push that needle through. You can hear it kind of cutting through that paper as we go. I think you can. And I'm seeing that we might have to make a tension adjustment for the first time. We might have to make a slight tension adjustment. Let me just take a look at it a little bit closer. Nope, I'm wrong. It was a reflection. We're perfect. We're good to go. I should say we're near perfect. And if anyone in the live stream is going, what does he mean by near perfect? One of the leaders can explain that to you. It's part of our Kanai principle. We're never as good today as we will be tomorrow, is kind of a hint. All right, let me give this a cut. Yeah, I personally, but I'm a kid at heart. I personally think this vinyl paper is super cool stuff. I think it's super cool stuff. And just I didn't mention it yet. I didn't mention it yet, but these machines that are oscillating hook. Again, an oscillating hook is going to go like this, like a pendulum, instead of going around a circle rotary. Oscillating hooks tend to pull a little bit more thread when you launch. So on an oscillating hook machine like this 512, you might want to hold onto those threads when you initially start sewing because it will be pulling that thread quite a bit. And what I just clipped away on the end here is it kind of created a little bit of a loopy doopy thing there where that thread had started to get pulled in and the needle caught it and it kind of, you know what I mean? It kind of stitched into it a little bit. So I didn't specifically provide that tip, but if you're using an oscillating hook machine more so than a rotary, watch for that thread getting pulled so that you don't get a bird nesting thing going on the bottom. So here's our top stitch. Absolutely lovely. See if we can get in there and give you a good look at that. And again, this is vinyl paper. Vinyl paper, and when you look at the stitch quality is just unbelievably beautiful. And that's really quite a testimony of how well this machine is running to be able to go through this vinyl paper after we've already, even though we replaced the needle, this needle already has gone through a lot and it's still laying down absolutely gorgeous stitching. Absolutely gorgeous. And the lock stitching, we'll look on the back of this for the lock stitching. And because this paper is so thin, this vinyl paper, it's like a tactical, it's like a tactile, that's the word I was looking for. It's like a tactile smorgasbord as you're running your finger over this thread. It feels so super cool. Super cool. Let's look at these lock stitching on the back. And look at those holes coming through that paper. Can you see that? That's what we could hear, the needle punching through that paper. I'm going to turn this out a little bit more to get more of that light from above. Absolutely a beautiful job. I'm going to turn it like this. I think it'll be easier for the camera to see it. Pretty sure it'll be easier for the camera to see it. There we go. A beautiful job on a real tricky sew off with this vinyl paper as well. Uh, it's you wouldn't try this on if you can pick this up at your Dollar Tree. Try this on one of your machines, and if you can sew through a variety of different materials and not have to adjust the tension when you do this, and your machine is doing a great job. Your machine is doing a great job. So we've done a lot of things already. We've done the vinyl paper, the elk hide, cotton, 100% cotton. We've done the bubblegum material, we've done the velvet, and we've done the 6 layers of denim. So this already, in my opinion, has put this machine to the test and has shown that it's ready to graduate from the workshop. But we're going to do just a couple more little quick things before we wrap this up. Uh, let's see here. Why don't we lay down some zigzagging on some saddle grade? We're going to wrap up the live stream doing the saddle grade like this, going around in a circle. But right now we'll go down through these 2 thinner layers. Saddle grade leather, depending on how it's cut from the hide, generally is a little bit thinner than elk hide, but still we're looking at a reasonably thick sew off, probably close to 6 ounces of leather. So beautiful stuff, beautiful leather to work with. If you're looking at working with leather, I definitely would suggest starting with either saddle grade or starting with vegetable tan leather. Stay away from the Italian leather, which, no offense considering we're presenting an Italian machine, stay away from the Italian leather because that stuff can be really tricky to stitch because of the way the nap is and the way the leather is. It's just real slippery stuff. So let's lay down, let's see, why don't we lay down a straight stitch on this first? See if we can get away with laying down a straight stitch. And all I adjusted to get back to a straight stitch is I pushed our stitch width from over by 5 all the way back over to 0. And then I'm going to adjust my stitch length to about a 3. So we're not going to go to the max on stitch length. We're going to go to 3.5, I guess that is technically. We're going to go to 3.5 on stitch length and then go to 0 on our stitch width. We'll lay down a straight stitch and then we'll try to lay down a zigzag next to it. All right, here we go. Saddle grade leather, 2 layers. Here we go. See that? This needle again, a universal needle is not going to have a serrated type point. It's going to have a slightly rounded point. So we just hit this saddle grade leather. It's thinner. It's a little bit thinner than the elk hide, but it still is very, very dense leather. And that needle hit that. Plus, I didn't give enough gas, but that needle hit that. You saw it just stop. It just stopped. So we'll do a second run at it now, and see if I can hold that thread at the same time when we launch. I'll give it a little bit more gas this time. Don't you love the sound of a machine working? You can hear it just going dum 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 dum, almost like a jackhammer, going after something, Take a look, see how we did as far as stitch balance with tension. Absolutely spot on. We're laying on a zigzag next to it, and then we'll look at both of those together. And just so I don't get confused, which I sometimes do, this is a lock stitch. I'm just going to grab my little marker real quick. I'm just going to put a little L on there, lock stitch, and a little T right here for top stitch. Now we're going to be laying down a zigzag next to that. And that is Susie sending me a quick note. What? I do not look at the laptop, and Susie just sent me a text saying 5:23, and when I looked over there, it's 5:31 now. See, they don't come to hear me. Just so you guys know that. They don't come, we don't have an audience of 500 or 1,000 because of me. They come because of the leadership team, because I don't interact with all of you. I don't have time. It's the leaders that create the magic in the live chat and on that side of the house while I'm over here. So that's a testimony to Emma, to Christine, to Susie, to Jenny, and all the other leaders. Bill, whenever Bill's able to make it. Wow, that's really cool. That's super cool. Wow, 4 or 500 folks on a Tuesday during the work week for most people, and they find time to join us. They find time to join us. Oh, and another message, I didn't see it. It was from Christine from Canada saying that she lost internet for a while. Christine didn't have internet up in Canada, so she wasn't able to join us. We're so glad you're here today. We really are. What a blessing. And I hope those fires up in Canada are starting to get under control and everything's okay there. All right, let's lay down on this saddle grade leather, 2 layers of it. We're gonna have to our stitch width. Right now we're on 0. We're gonna go back up to about 3.5. And we're already on 3.5 with our stitch length. So 3.5, 3.5. Let's see if we can pull off with our Schmetz 9014 universal needle. Let's see if we can pull off a zigzag on these 2 layers of saddle grade leather. Let's give this a go. And I've already got my take up arm all the way at the top. So we're in great shape there. Oh, you know what we forgot to do? I had adjusted this back a little bit for the velvet, and I never adjusted it back up. So I'm going to give it 2 quick little turns clockwise to give us a little bit more press-foot pressure. That should do it, hopefully. All right, so let's do this zigzag, and then we'll be done with this saddle gray leather, and we'll go on to our final sew-off before we wrap this up. So again, to show you that there was some gentleman that joined us. I think he may have been from China or somewhere in the Orient. At one time was being a little bit critical of my leather, saying that it was easy to get through it. Well, you've got an incredibly strong Italian machine here. You're dealing with a Schmetz needle, the finest in the world, in my opinion, and yet we can still hit this leather with a powerful motor, a fully optimized machine, and that needle can just be brought to a complete stop. That tells you that we're not dealing with an easy peasy type leather. This stuff is serious, and yet this Italian machine is making it look easy, just like it did with the genuine elk hide. So that's the reality. If you've got a well-running machine, it's amazing what you can accomplish. All right, let's give this a go. Here we go. I had a little bit of fun kind of launching into that kind of fast, didn't I? I didn't want to not give it enough gas again and stall out. So I gave it just a smidgen more, and it just went into that like, I got this. I got this. And I'm looking at some beautiful stitching. Let me show this to you. And then we'll get on to our final stitch off. I'll put on some Italian type piazza music, and then we'll wrap this up. All right. So first of all, see, I was smart because I got turned around even in that little second. Hold on a second. Let's see. Okay, L lock stitch, top stitch. See, it's a good thing I put that marking on there. Good thing I put that marking on there, because I all of a sudden started to doubt that I have it facing the right way. So here's our top stitching, and then I'll flip it over and show you the lock stitching shortly. Here's our top stitching. And again, we're not at the absolute max for the top stitch. We're right about at, what were we at? 3.5, something like that. Folks, that is some good looking stitching. I don't know what y'all are seeing, but that's some really, really good looking stitching. And again, if we were to add a leather needle to this, we'd be even better shape. Beautiful stitching. So again, top stitch. That is, I would give that a page 34, if not a page 34 plus. Very, very nice. Very, very nice. And again, saddle grade leather. Here's our lock stitch now. This is our lock stitching on the back. No tension adjustment. No tension adjustment whatsoever. All we did was bump up the presser foot pressure just slightly. Absolutely gorgeous. Lock stitching again, lock stitch. So lock stitching, top stitching, saddle grade leather. See if I can show you that way. It's hard to see. It's real dark stuff, but I would say it's probably, matter of fact, I don't have to guess. It's about 4 millimeters thick, 4 millimeters thick, according to my caliper on this end. And it varies. Leather is not equal all the way across. It's going to vary. Some parts of the leather will be a little bit thicker. Some other parts will be a little bit thinner. But on this end right here, that looks like it's probably the thicker side, about 4 millimeters. That's a thick sew off, folks. That's a thick sew off for sure. All right. So I'm going to throw this into our pile. And again, just real quick, recap what we've done so far before I do the final sew off. So we just did saddle grade leather, 2 layers, beautiful page 34 plus stitching. We did 6 layers of heavy grade denim with spandex, beautiful stitching. We did super thin velvet and beautiful stitching. Then we did this vinyl paper, absolutely gorgeous stitching. This stuff's long, isn't it? Vinyl paper we did right after that. And we did bubblegum material, 2 layers of that. We did cotton in a variety of ways. And then we just did also genuine elk hide. And we sewed through, good gravy, how thick is that? It's about 6, almost 7 millimeters thickness on this end. Almost 7 millimeters. So that's a lot of stitching to put this machine to the test. We're going to do our final sew off now on a single layer of saddle grade leather. I'll put on some Italian style music. We'll kind of go around and around as best as I'm able. And then we'll wrap up this live stream. Yeah. Get this set up. I hope I can sew relatively straight. Relatively straight. All right. Let's see. 3 and so I'm going to do a 3x3. If you saw me making an adjustment over here, what I did is I adjusted our stitch width to 3. I put our stitch length on 3, and then we're going to put on a little bit of music and go round and round. And that is Susie's ringtone again. Oh, the owner's in the chat. Mary's in the chat. Very cool. Welcome to Mary. Great to have her here. I told her that we were going to be doing this today, but she wasn't sure if she would be able to join us. So I'm glad we ran a little bit longer, and she was able to pop in. It's always great to have an owner here, isn't it? And Mary again brought several machines to the workshop, including that 66K, a featherweight, this Necchi 512, and she's going to be picking up the Necchi and then also the featherweight Centennial model that's on the other workbench right now, going through the final phases. There she is right there. That's machine right over there. That's Mary's machine. You see, I'm going through some additional things on it. Nothing to do with my car keys. And we'll be presenting that featherweight Centennial model that also belongs to Mary. Hopefully, be presenting that this coming Saturday. All right, let me put on some Italian music. At least they're telling me it's Italian. I'm not sure if it really is. Put on some Italian music, and then this will be our final sew off. And I'm going to be doing again a zigzag, going around and around and around, doing a zigzag on saddle grade leather. Again, our needle is a 9014 Schmetz universal needle. We're sewing with Gutermann 100% polyester thread. And we're going to be trying to lay down page 34 stitching all the way around and around and around and around and around and around and around. If you get dizzy, it's okay. It's part of the fun. See, this sounds almost like Spanish music to me. It doesn't sound like Italian, but they said it's Italian. All right, here we go. I sewed off course. So quick, I sewed off course. See that? The owner's present. I got nervous. All right, let's try that again. That's funny. Now this sounds like Italian music. I'm just going to do a quick check on the foot controller. I'm going to stop our Italian music. When you're doing a lot of slow sewing with a more standard rheostat type foot controller, when you're trying to hold that speed back using the foot controller, you can sometimes cause the foot controller to overheat a little bit because that electricity is backing up in that foot controller. So I'm just going to do a quick check. We should be under 100 degrees. 89.9. 89.9. Just feeling with my hand what feels warmer. Right up here feels a little bit warmer, so I'm going to get that as well. 87.4, 86.5. So we were under 90 degrees, and that's good considering that I sewed for an extended period of time, really in the upper registry of that foot controller. And that's the only caution when you're dealing with a foot controller like this that's not electronic. Just realize that if you're trying to do a lot of slow sewing, you need to keep an eye on that foot controller. Otherwise, you can burn it out. It'll get too hot. You'll be able to feel it to your touch. I've had one lady down in Texas that tried doing it with a Husqvarna, a 21A. She was using a traditional Viking type foot controller like you've seen before. And she heard like a loud pop and blew out the capacitor on it. And yeah, I had to walk her through rewiring it without the capacitor. That's a net down there, down in the southern Texas. So we're good to go. We're good to go. We did a lot of sewing. I'll show you the stitching on this now. Did a lot of sewing. The foot controller is within the acceptable range, but I just wanted to double check so that it's not a hazard to Mary. And I don't know if you could see me. You may not have been able to see, but I had to really stretch this leather to make those turns that I was going. I'm sure I was flexing that needle, but I tried to do it cautiously so I didn't flex the needle so much that it would hit the throat plate. You know what I mean? Because we're doing a zigzag, the needle's already moving left to right. And if you try to pull it too much, you're going to flex that needle and you're going to end up scarring the throat plate and breaking the needle. So, but we did really well. We did really, really well. Let's take a look at these. Beautiful stitching. I ran out of space here a little bit, ran out of space. Well, you can see down here where I was getting really, really tight, getting super tight. And I was really having to pull that leather against those feed dogs that were trying to feed it straight in order to make that turn. And you can see then you get a little bit of a distortion as you would expect from that zigzag because that needle is hitting in a different spot than it normally would if it were going in a straight path. And that's just to be expected. But beautiful, beautiful stitching all the way around. Beautiful stitching. So if you're not getting a little bit in love, with this Italian beauty, then there's probably something wrong with you. Because I think that she is not only a beautiful machine to look at, but the field of stitching that we've done with her is just crazy. Just absolutely crazy. So what about the lock stitching? Let's take a look at that. The lock stitching is also spot on. You have to kind of get really, really close. Again, we're dealing with that leather nap. Well, you can see we don't have any skip stitching. We don't have any loopiness. And we haven't made a single adjustment on Mary's machine as far as tension. not a single adjustment on tension. And we've sewed a very wide field of materials. Beautiful, beautiful stitching. And again, we're doing this on saddle grade leather without a leather needle. We're using a universal size 9014 needle and Gutermann 100% polyester thread. So beautiful lock stitching. Get really close there. Beautiful top stitching. So just to recap again what we accomplished during this live stream. We just did this saddle grade. We sewed around and around and around and around and around and around. We did this vinyl paper, real tricky stuff because of that vinyl content. We did 2 layers of saddle grade leather to test the stitch quality under a very arduous type sew off, going through 2 layers of this, about 6 ounces. We also did 6 layers of denim as well, laying down a zigzag. Beautiful stitch results with that as well. Then we finally did, well, actually at the beginning, we did different cotton sew-offs. We did velvet. Beautiful results with the velvet also. And we did bubblegum material. And we did this, and I don't know if Mary caught this or not, but she can watch it on rewind. We did about 12 ounces, 12 to 13 ounces of genuine elk hide on this Italian beauty. Camera's not wanting to focus on it. It's like we're like scaring the camera to death. We're like scaring the camera to death. But that's thicker than a heavy gauge belt. And this Italian beauty, not just a looker, but also a worker. She went through this, laying down a zigzag through 2 layers of this and just did a beautiful job. So our sew-off sandwich for the live stream is this right here. This is our sew-off sandwich. So I think that we can safely declare that Mary's Italian beauty has graduated from the workshop. This Saturday, I'm hoping to present her featherweight and then make arrangements for her to come back and pick those last 2 machines up. And yeah, and then I just keep on going because there's a lot of other machines that are anxiously waiting to get their way to the workshop. But thank you to everybody for your patience today. And also, I don't say patience in a bad way as we experience some obstacles, because each of those obstacles was a lesson to be learned. And it taught us something. It taught all of you something. If you run into the same thing, how you can overcome that obstacle and still have success. And that's really what sewing is all about, is you're going to run into challenges. And if you know what to do, you can move that project forward and have success in the end. So that's the cool part of it, isn't it? All right, let me put on a little bit more Italian music. Thank you to the leadership team as well for your incredible taking care of the family and for managing everything as I'm focused over here. And we'll wrap this up with some Italian music. Oh, I got to take this off too. Oh, I knocked the whole phone over. almost got it. Never try to adjust a phone with one hand. It's very dangerous.
That was easy.
Take care, everybody. God bless. See you on Saturday, I hope.